Hello fantasy managers and welcome to another video from myself, Will, and fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. Today I'm going to be going over the second draft that I've made. Well, I say second, it's actually more like the fifth or sixth one. But it's the second one that I've shared on YouTube, and I'm going to be explaining why I've made certain changes compared to my first draft. Let's get to it. Okay, so we've got my new draft on the left and my old draft beneath me, and I'm going to be going over exactly why I've made certain changes and also just a general overview on my new draft and why I'm leaning towards this draft now. I'm not completely set on it. You know, this is very far from my final draft and we've still got a few weeks to go, but I'm liking the look of a lot of these players, so I thought it'd be worth creating another YouTube video on it. Okay, so starting at the back then, we've got Pope between the sticks. Now, I know that he's actually picked up a very, very minor groin injury, so we've got to watch that situation. But as I explained in my goalkeeper video, and I'll put a link to that in the description as well, I do like the look of Pope and all the Burnley goalkeeper. You know, Burnley goalkeepers have got a very good track record in Fantasy Premier League, and if Pope can nail down that first choice keeper spot, and I think he will, then he's going to be my prime target. If that doesn't happen, then I'll probably go back to Ryan. If there's a bit of uncertainty there, or Pope is still carrying a knock, I do want that position nailed down. And I don't have a backup, so I've got Button in goal. I don't want to spend a lot of money in this position, but I do need someone who is a regular starter. So if that doesn't look like it's going to be Pope, I probably will switch back to Ryan. But at the moment, I've penciled in Pope for that position. Moving on to defence then. I'm not going to spend ages on this because I have got a defence video out where I explain a lot of the different picks that I quite fancy in defence. I'll leave a link in the description to that as well. But as you can see, it's pretty much the same actually from it was to my original draft. So I've got Zinchenko in there instead of Kiko Firmino. So I'm not going for a rotation. I'm going for a flat back four with Kelly as sort of my bench fodder in there at 4.0. I would say that I don't think Kelly is nailed on in the slightest, but at the moment we don't have a nailed on 4.0 defender. I'm not too concerned about that. I'm happy to have sort of a non-playing 4.0. Kelly might have a chance of playing, so that's why he's in there currently. If one becomes more available towards the start of the season, then brilliant. I'm definitely set on the Trent Alexander and Robertson double up, possibly Van Dijk if I really need to save 0.5, but at the moment I'm happy with Trent and Robertson. Coleman over Dean, it's a close one, and I haven't made my mind up completely. I think Dean is a very, very strong option. He definitely could come into my lineup, but at the moment I think that Coleman is probably worth a 0.5 saving, so that's the way I've gone at the moment. Moving on to midfield then. Now, I quite like Sigurdsson. I still think that he's a good option. I know he's not in this draft, but he was in my original. I've definitely not ruled him out. I probably prefer Fraser slightly, and I'll move on to comparison between the two. Now, Ryan Fraser, he's pretty much a lock in my team. I do think that he is great value, especially for the first couple of fixtures. So I'm not going to be touching him. But Sigurdsson, there's still, I still think that he is a good shout. Potentially even Richarlison. Everton situation, I'm not 100% sure on in terms of their formation, how they're going to set up, but I will be monitoring that situation very closely pre-season. As I said, I still do like Dean, and to be honest, if I was going to go for another Everton player, and I probably will, I'm not quite sure which way I'm going to go, but it'd probably be Dean. His points per game are very strong, and he's matching Sigurdsson. So at the moment, I think that Sigurdsson is slightly overpriced, but I'm willing to be proved wrong on that one, and Sigurdsson could easily still come back into my team. So a lot of people are talking about Kevin De Bruyne, and a lot of drafts have him in. Now, I think he's a fantastic player. He's probably one of the best players in the Premier League. But in terms of an FPL asset, I'm not completely convinced. He's not been in any of my drafts. He's very much a wait and see for me. But his injury record is a bit of a concern for me, and I'm just not convinced that he's going to be playing that far forward. And if you look at the data from last season, in terms of his points per game and his potential attacking output, I don't think it's massive. Now, I know he's coming in a lot cheaper than Sterling, but he's not cheaper than some of the other Man City mids who potentially are better options in my opinion. Okay, so here's some data from our new Optus tool. Now this looks at the second half of the season. So, De Bruyne, he didn't play a huge amount of matches. He played 11. He got 11 starts, and I've sorted it by points per start here. So Sterling coming in at 6.8. He's a clear favourite. Now, if you compare him to De Bruyne, coming in at 3.8 points per start, now that's quite a significant difference in my opinion. And I think that Sterling he does warrant that extra outlay, and he's more nailed on, and he's more likely he's a better captaincy option in my opinion. He's playing pretty much as a striker in that team, just off Aguero in behind, and he's often the most furthest forward for City. So I think that it's difficult to look past him. Now, there are other options in that City lineup, the likes of Bernardo Silva. I don't think he's been slightly overlooked. He's coming in at 1.5 cheaper than De Bruyne. He's got a better points per game. He's got a better expected attacking output. He's more he's as nailed on, but he's less injury prone, I would say. So Bernardo Silva, I think, is being slightly overlooked. I also think David Silva, I know he's aging now and he's coming towards the end of the career, and this will be his last season at City, but I do think that he is still going to get game time, and I still think that he could be an option coming in at 7.5. That is very, very price friendly to get into that City attack, and he's got a better point per game than De Bruyne. He's got a better expected attacking output, and he's coming in at a whole 2 million cheaper. So I think that David Silva and Bernardo Silva are probably better picks than De Bruyne based on the information we have at the moment. I'm not going to say that I'm definitely not going to go with De Bruyne. As I say, he's one of my favourite players in real life, but in terms of starting the season with him, I think there are a lot better options, certainly, in the Man City attacking lineup. So Milivojevic is in there at the moment. He's absolutely not nailed in my team, but I do still think that he is a strong option. Got some good fixtures over the first 4 weeks, and he's on penalties. I know that the introduction of VAR for other leagues hasn't led to a significant increase in penalties over the season, but I do still think there could be an increase in the Premier League just because it is so fast-paced. And also, at the start of the season, I think there still might be more penalties. And if there is, then getting players in like Milivojevic could be a good shout. So that's why I've gone with him. Okay, moving on to the Strikeforce now. Wilson, I've gone with him. He's pretty much been a lock in my team from the start. I've gone over a comparison between him and King. And, I think that King is a good shout. I'm not saying that King isn't a good option. He is on penalties, and I've just talked about the potential benefits that penalty takers could have. But, the overall impact that Wilson has on that team, and, the fact that his numbers are considerably better than King's, then I'm leaning towards going that way. I've not completely ruled out King, potentially even go with both of them up front. I do actually think they're both good picks, especially with those first two fixtures. So, but, Wilson, I'm fairly confident that he's going to be in my team for the start of the season. The other one is Vardy. Now, Vardy, I think he's a great pick now, and he is going to score FPL points. There's no doubt about it. Everton fixtures at the start are mixed. Now, I know Vardy is probably a little bit of an exception to that, because he does do well in difficult fixtures, but I still believe that out of the two, I do prefer Wilson as the pick. So as a quick comparison here, Wilson coming in 1 million cheaper, and he's pretty much offering very, very similar output to Vardy over last season. So I'm fairly confident with going Wilson over Vardy. If I could get Vardy in, I would. I do think he's a strong option. At the moment, my current team setup doesn't allow that. So that's kind of where I'm leaning, is going for Wilson. Coming on to Delafay, and why I've opted for him over Dominic Calvert-Lewin is that he's simply just got more of an attacking output. Watford have pretty decent early fixtures as well, if I'm going to move on to the fixture chart. So as you can see there, over the first 4 fixtures, according to our hub fixture ticker, which is based on spread betting odds, Watford have the second best fixtures after Liverpool over the first 4 game weeks. So Watford have a very good opening start, and I just think that Delafay playing up front could be the shout. I quite like Deeney as well, but I think Delafay could be worth a punt. He's certainly not nailed on in my team. He's one of those positions that could change, and has been changing quite regularly. And it could go up to someone like Vardy if I can find the cash and do a bit of a rejig. But that's currently where my team is at the moment. Okay, so just to talk a little bit about structure and formation. Now, I'm currently rocking a 4-4-2. I haven't ruled out 5 at the back, and I think there's a lot of value going, turning effectively Kelly into someone like Dean. I think that, and going with a big, strong back 5, there's a lot of value there, and I haven't ruled that out. Looking a bit further forward, the problem with this team, the problem with this setup is that it hasn't got a big hitting forward. And if Kane or Aubameyang start a season well, which I believe they could do, they both have the potential to that. I'm going to struggle to get one of them in. So it's not ideal from that perspective, but I do believe this formation is very flexible otherwise, and it has more flexibility than a 5 at the back, which is currently why I'm leaning towards it. But I've certainly not ruled out 5 at the back because there is so much value in defence this year, in my opinion. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button, and turn those notifications on. If you want to try out any of the tools that are demonstrated in this video, the advanced fixture ticker, the comparison tool, or our new Opta data tool, then you can become a Hub member, and you also get access to a load of other resources that are on the screen there, plus entry to our £5,000 members only prize league. So please go check membership out. I'll leave a link in the description. You can also use coupon code YouTube if you want to gain an extra 10% off. Bye for now.